Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Before we get started, I just want to remind those of you who may need this reminder that I have now uploaded every single end of the year list video that is expected of a channel of this type. The top 10 best metal albums of the year. The top 5 worst metal albums of the year. I even talked about the best non-metal albums of the year. The best hip-hop, alternative rock, punk, jazz fusion, yes, even pop music. So if you have yet to contribute to these particularly spicy debates, may I recommend you pop on over to one of those videos and say your fucking piece. Obviously do it after this video, because you're already here, you clicked on this video, you may as well see it through to the very end, but, maybe afterwards, pop on by, say hello, rant a little bit. I don't know, your fucking choice, your fucking prerogative, you do whatever you fucking want. I'm gonna sit here and talk about Fultercommer either way. Lederpredigt is the debut album from Folterkammer, a new underground black metal project spearheaded and supported by members and collaborators of Imperial Triumphant. Handling guitar and production, you've got Zachary, Ilya, Ezrin. Handling the mixing and the mastering of the record, you have Steve Blanco and producer Colin Marston, respectively. And on top of all that, we've also got a mystery singer here by the name of Andromeda Anarchia, who has previously worked with Imperial Triumphant on the aforementioned Alphaville, namely on the tracks Transmission to Mercury and Happy Home. Now, y'all know me. I love Imperial Triumphant. I love Vile Luxury. I love Alphaville. I love this band and their incredibly bizarre, chaotic, and dystopian fusion of jazz and avant-garde and blackened death metal. And as such, it should not be especially shocking that any project featuring so many members and collaborators of Imperial Triumphant would catch my fucking attention. It was fucking inevitable. But what may be somewhat shocking to some of you is that Foltercommer actually strays quite far from the chaotic experimental madness that defines Imperial Triumphant. Which isn't to say that there aren't experimental flourishes at all on this record, because there are, and we will address those in a moment, but at the very core of this thing, and even on surface level, frankly, this actually functions more like a traditional European black metal record, with a very raw and unpolished sound mix and production, and a very militant and brutal aesthetic that reminds me a lot of some of the earliest recordings from Mayhem, Watain, and some more modern traditional black metal connoisseurs like Umgwa and Uwada. There are a lot of grainy tremolo riffs and howled vocals and blast beats. Atmospherically, if you told me this emerged from like mid-90s European black metal, I might have believed you. That is, of course, might have, because there is one distinct feature of Fultercommer's sound and presentation that definitely still showcases a little bit of the signature weirdness that we would expect these people to bring to the table at this point. See, Foltercommer is not especially satisfied simply being a very old-school, traditional European black metal record. It wants to introduce an element that isn't necessarily uncommon to metal per se, but definitely very rare and often poorly utilized. That element being opera. And this isn't like some Nightwish Cradle of Filth stuff where we'll briefly get these little bursts of operatic vocals to make everything seem all the more elegant and lush and sophisticated. This is like actual opera technique being consistently used and implemented across a 38-minute traditional European black metal record. Everything is just so hellish and stark and powerful. It feels like the soundtrack to like some long-lost supernatural Wolfenstein DLC. Take for instance on the track Die Hymns, where very melodramatic vocals and haunting gothic organ pieces strike through abrasive, earthy, bloodthirsty black metal, emboldened by its own manicy and immediacy. It doesn't take very long for this track to get incredibly hectic, especially not in its final moments where guitars and drums and bass and organs and operatic vocals all clash together in one massive climax. Or for instance, the track Das Magnificant, where we begin to hear a little bit more influence from like traditional German folk and pub music. Like there's this bouncy, almost jovial kind of folky melody that I could picture people singing drunk off their fucking asses at Oktoberfest. But now it's been twisted and perverted by this unholy fusion of opera and second wave black metal. Almost as if this particular Oktoberfest celebration has been interrupted by an army of witches. And then you have the closing number, Das Zygnus, which almost plays out like an actual black metal opera. There are a lot of deep horns, a lot of heavy strings, a lot of keyboards and organs, and a lot of vocal styles and vocal performances that seem to be in direct combat with one another. There's a flamboyancy and a theatricality to this that I really appreciate and admire. It honestly feels like Dimmu Borgir trying to write a King Diamond song. I'm honestly kind of loving this thing. It's unique, it's exciting, it's unpredictable, it's legitimately very dark and heavy. It has the essence and the soul of traditional black metal, despite its gothic and opera flavors. To the point where I would honestly feel comfortable giving this a 4 out of 5. I think this is a great record, one of the more inventive records I think we've heard from underground black metal in recent memory. The closest thing I have to any real criticism is directed towards the opening track, Die Nane, which is by no means a bad track, but maybe just a little bit underwhelming in comparison to the rest of the album. It does feel a little bit repetitive to me. I don't really feel as if it ever evolves or blossoms into anything quite as strong as some of the other tracks we've mentioned. But all things considered, no major complaints here. The performances are great, the production value is great, the atmosphere is great, the album is immersive and dark and heavy and weird and super fucking raw. I love that the lyrics are sung in the German language as well. It makes this feel all the more evil and mysterious and spooky. And if everything I've said isn't somehow enough to convince you to give this record a chance, I'd like to direct your attention to a recent video from Jamie Horsley, a gentleman who, with all due respect, is not always the most susceptible or open-minded towards avant-garde metal, and even he was having an absolute blast with the experimental twists and turns found on this record. To quote him directly, it's one of the best avant-garde black metal albums of the year. Not gonna lie, that genuinely kinda fucking shocked me. 4 out of 5, a great record showcasing an adventurous new path for underground black metal. Super excited to return to this record. Super excited to see what Fultercommer has in store for us in the future. Super excited to possibly nab this on vinyl. It is very, very tempting. I try not to buy a lot of vinyl this time of the year because it's Christmas and people want to buy me shit and blah, 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 but oh, it's tempting. I've got it open on Bandcamp right now. Whew, we'll see. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.